Our warmest greetings to everyone. I am Alchem Daluniag from Impasugong Bukidnon, and my virtual partner Mr. John Lloyd P. Quintana of Pangantukan Bukidnon and Mr. G. Mart V. Ruba of Dulugon, Maramag, Bukidnon. And we are tasked to report crop production, agriculture, and trade. Content to be reported: agriculture and its goal, models of agriculture, specifically industrial model and sustainable model, communities, ecosystem and biosphere, national and international policies, and trade agreements of agriculture. And before anything else, let us first to read the introductory part of our report. Agriculture is the systematic raising of useful plants and livestock under the care and management of man, according to Rimando 2009. He added, "It is a purposeful work through which means, elements of nature are harnessed to produce plants and animals to satisfy human needs, and without agriculture, civilization cannot be developed." On the other hand, agriculture is simply the art and science of raising plants and animals and considered the basic and mother industry of most countries. That is why there are two branches of agriculture, the crop production and the animal production. And now let us focus on crop production. Crop production is the cultivation or domestication of crops for consumption and profit purposes. In crop production, there were two disciplines of crop production: the agronomy and the horticulture. Agronomy comes from the Greek words agros, which means field, and nomos means to manage. In short, agronomy is the science which is concerned with field, crop production, and management. The second principle of crop production is the horticulture. Horticulture is derived from the Latin words hortus, that means garden, and colere, which means to cultivate. In short, is a science that includes the study and cultivation of garden crops and plants. And for the last part of our introductory, let me read on what is the definition of trade. Trade is the general marketplace of buying and selling goods, which the way you make the act of exchanging, buying and selling something. If you are thinking why crop production, agriculture, and trade is related, what is their relationship? Their main relationship is it is engaged in the production of plants and animals for the food and fiber, wherein the provision of the agricultural services and the processing, marketing, and distribution of agricultural products is occurred. That is why they are related. That's their main relationship. And now, let us proceed to the agriculture and its goal. The national goals of agriculture is the number 1, to eradicate poverty and hunger. Number 2, achieve universal primary education. Number 3, promote gender equality and empower women. Number 4, reduce child mortality. And number 5, improve maternal health. And then the number 6 is combat HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other disease. And number 7, ensure environmental sustainability. And then the number 8, a global partnership. And for the information of everybody, allow me first to read the regional goals. Number 1, provide access and equity to participative development activities for alleviation, specifically in the deprived and depressed and undeserved areas. The number 2, support the industries in meeting technology and human requirements. And number 3, promote science and technology awareness among people. And now, may I read also the 8 paradigms in agriculture, since this is also a part of the national goal. The number 1 is the modernization must continue. Industrialization of agriculture is the K. Promotion of exports is necessity. Consolidation of small and medium-sized farms. Infrastructure development would be critical. Higher budget and investment for Philippine agriculture. Legislative support is needed, and the roadmap development is paramount. These are the new thinking for agriculture by our current DA Secretary, Dr. William D. Dar. This means the 8 paradigms or the new thinking for agriculture by Dr. William Dar is to have a food-secure Philippines with prosperous farmers and fisher folks. And we are now on the models of agriculture, specifically the industrial model and sustainable model. The industrialized agriculture has begun in the World War II as a way of addressing global hunger and making the food supply more efficient and safe. The global shift towards this model of farming in the last 60 years has come with many costs. In expansion to that, industrialized agriculture is highly concentrated and mechanized, relying on chemical inputs like fertilizer, pesticides, and non-therapeutic antibiotics. That is why it is very expensive when we say industrial agriculture. Aside from what we say, industrial agriculture is very costly or expensive, industrial farming is bad for the health of workers, eaters, and downstream neighbors. And here are the some of its costly health impacts. The pesticide toxicity, herbicides and insecticides commonly used in agriculture have been associated with both acute poisoning and long-term chronic illness. And we are now on the sustainable model. The word sustain from the Latin word sustenere. Sus from below and tener means to hold, to keep in existence or maintain, which implies long-term support or permanence. As it pertains to agriculture, the sustainable describe farming systems that are capable of maintaining their productivity and usefulness to society indefinitely. Such system must be resource conserving, socially supportive, commercially competitive, and environmentally sound. And here are the some advantages of sustainable agriculture: satisfy human food and fibers needs, enhance environmental quality and natural resource base upon which the agricultural economy depends, make the most efficient use of renewable resources and non-on-farm resource, and integrate which appropriate natural biological cycles and controls, sustain the economic viability of farm operations, and enhance the quality of life for farmers and society as a whole. And sustainable agriculture integrates 3 main goals. Number 1, environmental health. Number 2, economic profitability. Number 3, social and economic equity. So what are the benefits from this? Number 1, conserve, preserve mentality, humane animal treatment, biodiversity. Number 4, economic viability. Number 5, healthier food options. And number 6, improving animal welfare. And number 7, supporting rural communities. On this part, I will going to report to you the communities, ecosystem, biosphere, and their main relationship. Communities or community is a group of interacting populations or a system composed of individual members and sectors that have a variety of distinct characteristics and interrelationship. Community-supported agriculture consists of a community of individuals who pledge support to a farm operation so that the farmland becomes either legally or spiritually. The communities farm with the growers and consumers, providing mutual support and sharing the risks and benefits of food production. And we are now on the ecosystem. Ecosystem is a geographic area where the plants, animals, and other organisms as well as weather and landscape work together to form a bubble of life. It contains a biotic living parts as well as abiotic factors or non-living parts. In ecosystem, the agriculture plays a major role in protecting ecosystem services and in turn can reap great benefits from services that are functioning properly. The ecosystem processes operating within agricultural system can provide some of the same supporting services described above, including the pollination, pest control, genetic diversity for future agriculture use, soil retention, and regulation of soil fertility, including the nutrient cycling and water. And the biosphere is the broadest level of ecological organization. It includes all life and every biome found on Earth, provides the necessary environmental condition for survival, and also it is home to biodiversity within ecosystem while providing a reliable source of food on Earth, and also the global system which includes all life and ecosystem. So the role of biosphere in agriculture is the basis of agriculture and our food system. Throughout our lives come from agriculture. Biodiversity includes all components of biological diversity of relevance to food and agriculture, which includes the plant's genetic resource, the crops wild, harvested, and managed for food, the trees on farms, pastures, and range species, the medical plants and ornamental plants of aesthetic value. And for the information of everybody, before I forget, the bio is having to do life, or in short, bio means life, and the sphere is the earth. And in this part, we are going to know the relationship between the biosphere, ecosystem, and communities, or the communities, ecosystem, and biosphere. If we put population of different species together, that's called a community. So a community needs group of different species to exist. When we add in the abiotic factors or non-living things in an environment, we get an ecosystem. The word ecosystem is a short for ecological system. An ecosystem includes all living organisms in a specific area. And these systems are the plants and animals interacting with their non-living environments, which is the weather, earth, sun, the soil, and the atmosphere. An ecosystem development depends on the energy that moves in and out of that system. As far as the boundaries of an ecosystem, it depends upon on how you use the term. So you could have an entire ecosystem underneath a big rock. On the other hand, you could be thinking about the overall ecosystem of the entire planet, which is the biosphere.
National and international policies and trade agreements of agriculture. Trade policies, in general, define the standards, goals, and rules and regulation of trade agreements between countries. Such policies are specific to each individual country, being determined by the country's public official. In some cases, they are employed to protect and promote local businesses. So, trade policies, it is standard because it is not easily to trade, and they have rules and regulation of trading in order to protect and promote local businesses. National trade policy is the formulation of each country's policies trade. They are implemented to accommodate the people living in the country and ensure their best interest. These policies can also reflect embargoes and other trade barriers that are in place. So, every country formulates policy to safeguard the best interests of its trade and citizens. And these policies is always in consonance with the national foreign policy. International trade policy is a policy related to trading across national boundaries. A government establishes an international trade policy that encompasses action they will take to protect the best interests of their citizens and companies. International economic organizations such as Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development or OECD, World Trade Organization, WTO, and International Monetary Fund, IMF, define the international trade policy under the Charter. The policies uphold the best interests of both developed and developing nations. So, this economic organization, the OECD, WTO, IMF, they are responsible in the international trade policies. The basic line of government control of international trade is the application of two different types of foreign trade policy in combination. First is liberalization of free trade policy. It includes partial or full privatization of governments, institutions, and assets, greater labor markets flexibility, lower tax rates for businesses, less restriction on both domestic and foreign, open market, and etc. So second, the protectionism. So it refers to government policies that restrict international trade to help domestic industry. And it is usually implemented with a goal to improve and safety the economic activity. The agriculture. Trade and markets for food and farm goods matter to us all, whether we are consumers of these products or also produce, transform, and trade them. To address the government policies that distort markets and restrict trade, WTO members concluded the Agreement on Agriculture. The Agreement on Agriculture is an international treaty of the World Trade Organization. It was negotiated during the Uruguay round of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade and entered into the force with the establishment of the WTO on January 1, 1995. The agreement covers market access, domestic support, and export competition. Market access, the use of trade restriction such as tariff on imports. So some additional market access is provided through tariff rate quotas and the tariffs are being reduced. Next is the domestic support, the use of subsidies and other support programs that directly stimulate production and distort trade. So the present rules and commitments on agriculture are often called the Uruguay Round Reform Program. They were negotiated in the Uruguay Round and they include reduction in subsidies and protection as well as other discipline on trades. Last is the export competition subsidies, the use of export subsidies and other government support programs that subsidize exports. So the core of the reform program on export subsidies are the commitment to reduce subsidized export quantities and also the amount of the money spent subsidizing exports.